It's been a real show watching MAGA Republican members of Congress and Trump's cabinet trying to manage themselves during live TV segments, with Donald Trump dismissing affordability as just a big trick. The MAGA brand feels like it's taking some serious hits. The reality is that affordability is no laughing matter. People are genuinely struggling, and the actions coming from the Trump administration aren't making things any easier. It's hard not to notice them celebrating while their billionaire buddies cash in big, all while everyday folks are just trying to get by. Take Dan Mauser, a Congress member who really believes Trump is all about instilling a sense of patriotic hope.
So waste, abuse, and fraud is being reined in. So all of that is going to contribute to a surge. Takes a little bit of time, but the president is the best at expressing and providing that patriotic hope that has real results.
Some people are outright calling it a patriotic Ponzi scheme or fraud. Those grand claims of bringing in trillions and striking fantastic trade deals just don't seem to stack up, especially since plenty of folks argue those promises have fallen flat. The notion that inflation is under control and Americans are paying less feels tangled up in this so-called patriotic hope, but many are seeing it for what it is, just another scam. Then you've got Kevin Hassett, Trump's national economic advisor, who recently made an appearance on CNBC to share what he framed as good economic news.
Huge amount of positive news that the president is going to be breaking this week about the economy. You know, we've got a person who actually approached the studio with me, walked with me, who's tracking the openings, the groundbreakings for the new factories that are, you know, in the trillions of dollars of announcements that the president's been making. And we're up to almost 30 of those that actually the groundbreakings have happened. And so there's a lot of positive news that's positive for people's jobs, for people's incomes, and for inflation. And President Trump is just going to go out there and remind people.
Yet it's curious that Hassett's optimistic take comes just as Jared Kushner's connections with wealthy investors from Saudi Arabia and Qatar are coming to light, really showing the ties between the MAGA agenda and their rich allies. And in an intriguing twist, there's this group from the Emirates that's plotting a hostile takeover of Warner Brothers, especially with Netflix keeping an eye on the company. It really highlights how the Trump administration seems to brush aside antitrust laws. And who's expected to spearhead this effort? That's right, Kushner. Hassett has also pointed out that Trump will play a key role in how this whole deal unfolds.
Hey, Kevin, one other question we've been batting around the table this morning was the president said just yesterday that he was going to be part of making the decision about this Netflix transaction with Warner Brothers. And at least the comment that we were making in the past is that the president, this president and presidents prior, I believe have never at least publicly declared their involvement in these decisions. They've historically been left to the antitrust department with inside of the Department of Justice. So how different is this, and how should we think about that?
Well, I don't think it's, you know, just rare for presidents to have opinions about big society-changing mergers. But in the end, the Justice Department is going to study things like the Herfindahl Index, the concentration in this industry, the amount of competition that is reduced because of this big merger, and, you know, what the responses of all the other companies that are playing in this space might be. You know, that's going to be something that goes on for quite a while. And I think the president is just very interested in making sure that there's a lot of analysis.
Now, when it comes to the messages coming from the Trump administration, opinions are pretty divided. Democratic Congressman Raja Christie doesn't seem convinced by the optimistic claims about how things are going under Trump. These days, folks are struggling to feel hopeful, and a trip to the grocery store can really hit that home. Prices for essentials like eggs, milk, and coffee are skyrocketing. This is just one part of a much larger issue with rising healthcare costs, increasing housing prices, and electric bills that seem to climb higher and higher. It's honestly hard to believe how chaotic everything feels right now. Ironically, Trump was brought in to fix these problems, but many feel he's made it worse. His moves, like sending ICE into communities such as Chicago, have really disrupted families, and then there are the tariffs that have been hard on businesses. It seems like people aren't buying the flashy story he's trying to sell. They're living their reality, and it's pretty tough. After Trump declared what he called Liberation Day, people's skepticism about his promises grew stronger. There were whispers that his bold claim of 90 deals in 90 days might just be more hot air. This pattern of him making promises that don't hold up reminds many of his business days when he often misled people. As president, he's talking about deals that just never pan out. Those supposed peace agreements in places like Congo or between Thailand and Cambodia turned out to be pretty empty. And there's a constant flow of misinformation to sift through. For instance, his outlandish claim of bringing in $23 trillion was debunked, which just highlights that disconnect between what he says and what's actually happening. It's tough to digest the nonstop stream of falsehoods we're witnessing. It's interesting to see how polls show more people are tuning out the stories we're being fed, realizing that the current administration isn't really living up to its promises. And let's face it, things are getting tougher economically. At the same time, the Democrats are stepping in to confront some big issues and laying out their plans to take back the House, the Senate, and the White House. They're banking on the fact that by addressing the economic challenges folks are facing right now, they can shift those voting trends in their favor. Just take a look at the early November elections. Democrats made some impressive gains in places like Georgia and Mississippi, not to mention winning governorships in states such as New Jersey and Virginia. It sure feels like the public isn't buying what the administration is selling. It's vital to keep bringing the facts into the conversation and offer up some alternative solutions. Now, shifting gears to the Department of Justice, not too long ago, it was regarded as the pinnacle of legal talent, attracting top lawyers who were willing to give up potentially bigger paychecks in the private sector to serve their country. This dedication used to be a shining example of patriotism and those values we all hold dear. But recently it seems like the department has adopted a more whiny tone rather than maintaining that professionalism. This was underscored by comments from Attorney General Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, who pointed out that some judges in the Eastern District of Virginia were showing bias against U.S. Attorney Lindsay Hallen. Hallen, who doesn't have much experience and hails from an insurance law background, found herself disqualified due to an improper appointment. Still, there's a push to validate her legitimacy as a U.S. attorney while critiquing judges from both parties. Honestly, this behavior comes across as pretty unprofessional and not exactly fitting for the administration. Some might even call it whiny. It feels like a case of sour grapes, especially when you consider how things have played out. There's a specific law that governs how interim U.S. attorneys are appointed. The president can appoint someone for 120 days, but then they have to get Senate confirmation, which is just the standard procedure. If confirmation doesn't happen, then the responsibility shifts to the U.S. District Court to appoint an acting U.S. attorney. Donald Trump has taken a rather unusual route lately, not only keeping Halligan in her job, but also throwing indictments at his political rivals like Adam Schiff and Tish James. It's interesting to note that judges have dismissed these charges, raising quite a few eyebrows about how valid they really are, especially the claims of mortgage fraud against Schiff and James. What's really worrisome is that there are genuine criminals out there who aren't facing any consequences. Even more alarming is that some who are getting prosecuted are being handled by acting U.S. attorneys with questionable appointments. It's a scary thought that these cases might be overturned, allowing dangerous individuals to escape justice. The actions of the Trump administration in this area have shown a concerning lack of respect for the law and accountability. In addition, Trump has been rather generous with pardons lately, including giving a pass to notorious offenders like significant drug traffickers such as Juan Orlando Hernandez and those behind Ponzi schemes like Gentiel, who managed to shorten his sentence despite being involved in embezzling a staggering $1.6 billion. This leniency extends to individuals tied to human trafficking, raising some serious ethical questions. With early voting for a critical United States Senate race fast approaching, it's vital to highlight the pressing issues that the state is facing, especially with the ongoing attacks from the Trump administration. Standing up against these actions and genuinely advocating for the people is more important than ever. Many people are feeling the strain in the current economic climate, particularly due to the chaos surrounding Trump. Prices for everyday necessities like food and electricity are soaring, which is putting a squeeze on household budgets. Tariffs are complicating things for businesses as well, and as someone who's been a small business owner, I can really relate to these challenges and how they've been dealt with in Congress over the years. The need for accountability is a big concern, especially regarding the Trump administration, which seems to play by its own rules and often disregards the Constitution. There's a clear demand for an accountability agenda to address the actions of this administration. There's a lot happening right now, especially with interesting proposals on the table. For starters, we're talking about bringing in a legislative inspector general for immigration and customs enforcement, which would really help keep ICE agents in check. Then there's the idea to tweak the Constitution to make it clear that presidents can't serve more than 2 terms, along with revising their pardon power. These are some vital changes aimed at ensuring presidential authority is used for the benefit of the nation rather than personal gain. The larger aim here is to restore the balance of power that our Constitution's framers envisioned, which has definitely been shaken up lately.